What's up guys, this is SkyTech Freak and today I'm going to be showing you a few upgrades you can make to your laptop that will help with storage, RAM, connectivity and heat or thermals of your laptop, right? So as you can see, I'm going to be demonstrating this on my Gigabyte Aero 15x. This is the 2018 model which runs an Intel i7 8th generation, so it's already like 3 or 4 cycles behind on the CPU, and it's running an NVIDIA GTX 1070 Max Q, so it's already 2 generations behind on the GPU cycle. So as you can see, it is starting to show its age just a little bit, but this is still very powerful hardware. But the issues you run into a laptop like this because it's thin and light, and of course not all of these upgrades are going to be applicable to all laptops, but most of the upgrades I'm going to be showing you will be applicable to most laptops. Now as you can see, this is obviously a flagship device from 2018, so although it doesn't hold up to flagship standards of performance in 2021, it is still a very strong device. And the issues you run into packing a lot of hardware into such a small chassis, as you can see, it is a thin and light gaming laptop, 15.6 inches, is that some of the issues you run into are things like connectivity, because it doesn't have the best sort of Intel because it doesn't have sort of the best Intel Bluetooth and Wi-Fi card, or you face a lot of heat because the components are so hot. And so how do you deal with the thermals that come out of this? And I'm going to be showing you a few ways to tackle that. But first, let's look at what we can do physically to the laptop to upgrade it. So let's look at how we can upgrade storage, RAM, and maybe thermals by repasting. Alright, so once you've opened up your laptop, unscrewed the back panel and pried it open, which of course is again a process different for each laptop and actually can be quite challenging because a lot of these back panels actually have hooks that make sure it stay on even when all the screws are off, so you can't really get it off easily. I use this prying tool to sort of just pry out all these sort of snags where it catches on the lid, and then it was quite easy. And now looking at the back panel, one thing you can do once you've come here, like I said, it is an old laptop, so of course there's a lot of dust that's collected on the fan filter and stuff like that, and I have pets, so there's a lot of like dog hair around, which I'm going to have to clean, of course. Sorry for having to show you guys all that. But once you get in, there'll be a few options to upgrade in each laptop, right? And I'm going to go over the most basic one first, and that is the RAM. So depending on which laptop you buy, you'll either have 1 slot or 2 slots of changeable RAM. And of course, there are laptops where you can't upgrade the RAM at all and it's soldered onto the board. But of course, this is not one of those laptops, and you should make sure you know which laptop or which kind of laptop you have, whether the RAM is upgradable and how many slots are there, right? And the reason I picked this laptop at the time is because it came with 1 stick of 16 GB RAM already installed, and it had another second empty slot. So a lot of laptops had the same spec and had the same amount of RAM, which was 16 GB. But a lot of those laptops, what they would do is have 2 sticks of 8 GB RAM, which if you only have 16 GB, 2 sticks of 8 GB RAM is the better thing to have. But if you want to upgrade, then to move from 16 to 32, what you'd have to do is get rid of both of those sticks of 8 GB RAM and then buy 2 new sticks of 16 GB RAM. And on the other hand here, you just need to buy a second stick of 16 GB RAM, which is all I had to do, and which is what helped me make the decision to get this laptop, among other things, of course, right? So let's look at what this RAM looks like. If you guys are aware, laptop RAM looks a lot different than something like desktop RAM. So this is just one of the sticks of desktop RAM I have. It's one of the most popular ones, the Corsair Vengeance RGB Pro. But laptop RAM looks very different. It's much smaller, and the way you install it is sort of, you just angle it in here, and then you make sure that these push tabs sort of just click it in. So as you saw, there's really nothing to it. But yeah, so that's one way to get it. You can get laptop RAM in basically anything from 2400 megahertz to up to 3200, 3600 megahertz. You need to make sure your laptop can support it. I don't think it's an issue if you buy faster laptop RAM. The only thing is it'll be more expensive and you aren't getting that speed if your computer, your laptop, and processor don't support those higher speeds. So I could easily throw in 3200 megahertz of laptop RAM here, but because I know my computer can only support up to 2666 megahertz, those are the sticks I have. Like I said, one was already installed and I bought a second slot. Another thing that you likely have 2 slots of, or at least 1 slot of an upgradable version of, is actually the NVMe drive. So if you guys can just move over down here now and see that there are 2 NVMe drives installed. This is the one that came with it, which is a Toshiba drive. And all you have to do is just unscrew this bit and the drive comes right out. And if you only have one slot and it's maybe like 500 GB or 256 GB, you can just take it out and replace it with another different NVMe drive. However, this was a 500 GB drive, and I know that there are two slots in this one, so I thought it's better upgrading instead of upgrading the single NVMe drive that I had. If I wanted to have 1 TB of storage, what I could do, just like with the RAM, instead of upgrading the one that I already have, I could just buy a second drive. And what I've done here is obviously bought that second NVMe drive, which at the time was one of the fastest NVMe drives. Here that you can see is the 970 Evo by Samsung. And like I said, most laptops will either have one or two of these slots that you can look at. So I have gone ahead and installed this. And the way you install this is like any NVMe drive in any desktop motherboard or laptop, where you just slide it into those sockets, hold it down, and then just screw in the screw that comes with it. Very simple process. There is really nothing to it. So I've screwed that in too now. Screwed in the original one as well. And now let's look at the last upgrade that I was talking about that you can reasonably make. Alright, so the last upgrade that you can make, which will actually be a replacement unlike the RAM ones so far, is actually the Wi-Fi card. Now you can see here that I've bought an Intel Wi-Fi 6 card, and this is actually the desktop kit. So basically what that allows you to do is use an M2 slot in your desktop to install this, and then that kit also comes with antennas and antenna cables and stuff like that, which is not stuff you need if you're just upgrading the card on your laptop. You don't even need to buy the kit. But the way you install it, at least in this card, is you want to lift open this tape that's over here, which is where the Wi-Fi card sits. And of course, like I said, for every laptop, it is going to be different. But you lift over this tape and you unscrew the one. If you can just see here, there's a screw here that you have to unscrew. And then you can just pull it out just like the NVMe drives and the RAM. You can just pull out at an angle the Wi-Fi card and replace it. One thing you have to be very careful of, you also have to take out these two antenna cables, and I can just do that right now to show you what it looks like. There you go. So when you pry that out, you want to be very careful. You remember what the order of the cables was, in the sense of which one goes into which slot. So these slots are numbered 1 and 2. So when you unscrew the Wi-Fi card, you want to remember which cable went into 1 and which cable went into 2. And that's just because of the way it's wired across the antennas on the laptop, that it helps the signal and connectivity. So in case you have the longer cable installed on 1, you want to make sure that longer cable stays installed on 1, and similarly for 2, you want to have the same one corresponding to the same Wi-Fi card port as it originally was. And the Wi-Fi card actually looks something like this. As you can see, the one that came with this laptop was the 826 NGW, and I've actually upgraded it with the Wi-Fi 6 card, and the model number for that is the AX200 NGW. I think there's also now Wi-Fi 6E, which is a greater model than even the Wi-Fi 6 card, but of course that isn't as easily available in the market as this one is. And you don't actually need to upgrade the Wi-Fi card. I feel like that's quite a frivolous upgrade, because you're likely not going to notice it, but just in case you do, or you do have a lot of connectivity issues, it's something you can definitely look into. So that was the last upgrade you can make in the physical changes. There is one other thing that you can actually do, and that is repasting the sort of thermal solution that's going on. And I'm not actually going to show you how to do that. There are many guides on how to do it specifically for this laptop, because this is the one that was running into a lot of thermal issues initially, but also for other laptops. So you probably want to find the specific guide for your laptop if you're going to be repasting. I have already repasted, and I use the MX4 thermal compound to do that. So basically what you do is you take off the entire heatsink, you find where the CPU and GPU chips are making contact with the heatsink. You clean out the thermal paste that's factory applied, which is most likely dried at this point, and it won't actually be that effective. And then you apply a better thermal compound, something like the Arctic MX4 that I have here, and you just put it onto those chips, and then you replace or you re-screw in the heatsink, and then the thermal connectivity between your chip and the heatsink is much better now, and the heat can travel through it, and the heat can be dissipated much better. The reason I didn't want to show you how to take off the heatsink cover and apply the thermal paste in this process, even though I've done it for all the other parts I showed you, is because it's quite a complicated process. There's a lot of screws you have to unscrew, there's a lot of tabs you have to pull, remove the board, and then from the board remove the heatsink and apply that thermal paste. So it's very complicated. I didn't want to get into it in this video because I wanted this just to be an easy tips and tricks video. So yeah, that's all the stuff you can really do when you take off the back panel internally in the computer.